Record. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the OK Run Show. This is the week 3 recap. And as you'll notice, not in our normal spot. And it is just me this week. Sean's on vacation with his family down in Florida. I leave for vacation tomorrow. So getting the recording out on Sunday for you guys to enjoy a little bit of content while we're away. So that being said, this was a very busy week for OK running. There was a ton of meets across the state, probably about 10 of them. This was maybe one of the hardest recaps to write up. I think we have like 2 or 3 pages in our little Google Doc dedicated to the various performances across the state and at TDF. So Texas Distance Festival, for those that may not know the acronym. We're going to start out with sprints and hurdles. The Bethany Twilight meet kind of kicked off our week Tuesday evening, and we got to see our top returning female in the 100 and 200, Lily Ray, open up her season with wins in the 4x1 and 4x2, and her first ever 400-meter dash, which I believe she ran in about 60 seconds. So fairly solid showing for Lily Ray. And we'll get to talk about her a little bit more because she also competed over the weekend at Moore. At the Bethany meet, though, your winner in the 100 and 200 without Lily Ray running was Kaylin Bratton of Putnam City. She got the W, got it done. One of the top freshmen in the state, continues to keep killing it week in and week out. Kayvon Newbine at Edmond Memorial ran 14:54 this weekend. We're yet to see Ukuwuba race. I mean, we've got to see younger Ukuwuba, Lalia race, but we have not got to see Inara race since the indoor season. So that battle for the hurdle supremacy right now, chalk it up to Kayvon Newbine. But maybe Inara, she's sitting back, waiting, and sooner or later she's gonna come out and just absolutely smoke it. I don't know. Maybe she's injured right now. One can only speculate. I don't know the answers. Speaking of the more meat, Aiden Edwards continues his undefeated season over some guys like James Duncan of Chandler, who's been quietly having a really good season, and the man who gave him the most troubles over the 300-meter hurdle last season, Nathan Enrique of Westmore. But Aiden Edwards, he got the job done, 14:36 and 39:52 in the 110 and 300-meter hurdles, respectively. Also at this Moore meet, there was a great 100-meter battle. You got to see Jordan Atkinson of Mustang, 11:96, got a big W, big scalp to take, beating Lily Ray. Lily Ray comes in second, 12:21, and Lily Ray did double back, runs a 200, got to see her first 200 of the outdoor season, 25:21 for very solid opening 200 of her season. Nathan James of Norman North ran 22:5 to get the job done over 200 meters in a great time near the top of the state right now. We love to see it. It was a kind of a windy weekend, so some of the sprint performances you're going to notice are going to be quite fast. And other meets, they're quite slow. It kind of just depended on, did they get maybe a wind at the back? Maybe they had a side wind for the times to be slowed down a bit. Obviously, the wind at the back would make the times a little bit quicker. Who knows? Maybe some meet somewhere out there this weekend decided to run them straight into a headwind. I feel so sorry for any sprinter that had to do that, but it's Oklahoma running. Crazier things have happened. But with Aiden Edwards running, continuing his undefeated season, running well over the 110 and 300 hurdles, I had him as the odds-on favorite to come back and retake the 110 crown and obviously retain his 300 crown. It was kind of him versus the rest of the state in the hurdles. And so far, head-to-head, he's been undefeated. But at Tulsa Union, Dean McCune of Jinx, he ran a state lead, 14:3 in the 100, so 0.6 quicker than Aiden Edwards did over the 110s. And then he also runs a second and a half quicker in the 300 hurdles, running 38:02. Tulsa Union, they're the sprint capital. They dominate in those events. And Sean and I were on site to get to witness them do that. They go 1-2 in the open four. Dejon Gaines continues his season. He had a really good freshman campaign. sophomore year, proving to not be a slump. 48-2. I think the school record at Union is 47 point something, if I'm not mistaken. And I think certainly by the end of the year, Dejon Gaines will have his name all over that 400-meter record at Tulsa Union. Again, historic sprint program. It's a big deal when you can get a record there in an individual event like that, and in an event that they've been so deep in for so many years. They always have a good 4x4. They always have a good 4x1, 4x2. That's why they're always going to be in contention for the state title every year. Like they get it done in the sprints, and the sprints are where more of your points can be scored. Tulsa Union, also second in the race. Jarek Wadey, 49.01. Again, they have depth. They are very deep. They're 4x4, 3:18. We said last week, Broken Arrow closed the gap, got down to 3:20. And we're like, okay, that makes the state race that much more interesting, because if both teams, barring any disaster, a drop baton, pulled hamstrings, other injuries, barring anything like that, they're the two teams that are going to win most every year. Like there's a lot of good 6A programs, don't get me wrong, but those two are one tier ahead of the third place team every single year. 4x4 could possibly settle the score at the end of the meet, is a long 2 days at state. 4x4 could be for all the marbles. So when Broken Arrow closed the gap, got down to 4:20, I was like, okay, 4:20, 4:19, you get them in the same race, same time. Let's see what happens. Well, Union saw their 4:20 and goes, all right, we're going to get a little bit quicker and, keep that cushion over you guys. Here's a 3:18. Take it or leave it. Tulsa Union did run an A squad. I mean, I assume if you run 3:18, which is near their school record in that event. But Broken Arrow did not run a full A squad. They notably did not have Cooper Wakely, who won the 200 meter and got second in the pole vault. He won the 200 meter in 21.7 and second place in the pole vault, 14 feet. He's kind of the jack of all trades on that team. I think if they could feasibly have him run 6 events, he'd run 6 events because he'd score in 6 events. It's still like shaping up to be probably the most interesting battle of any division, that 6A men's division. Like it could be either one. Union, I think, is pulling away a little bit, but Broken Arrow, they just are so good at so many events, where Union really 800 meters and downs where they can score. Broken Arrow can score everywhere. They can score in the mile. They can score in the 4x8. They can score in field events. Where Union, you don't really see that. You really just see between 100 meters and really 400 meters. They do have a good 800-meter stud in Daniel Davis, who ran 156. But 156, honestly, this year in 6A doesn't guarantee you a score, because there's a lot of guys around that area, and one wrong move in the race, you may not score even though you're a 156 guy. You may get shuffled back, end up 9th, not even get a point. So they rely heavily 400 meters and down, where Broken Arrow, they're a more diverse team. They cover all the events, and they got the job done. They beat Union at the home meet. Not fun for Union to have that happen, because, it's your home meet. You want to win. They throw out the A squad in the 4x4. They show out in the open 4. They win the 100, the 200. They're balling out all over the place. But Broken Arrow kind of has to rain on their parade and get the team W. Speaking of Dejon Gaines, little sister Gaines, Deja Gaines, 56 in the open 400. Also ran great legs on, I believe, their 4x1 and 4x4, maybe even the 4x2 at the meet. That's phenomenal. And you see her and you're like, she's real unassuming. Like I was sitting there taking pictures of the 4x1s and 4x8s, and she was sitting there next to me waiting for her leg. And you just assume she's just any average high school freshman. And then she gets out there and she just opens up, and you're like, what what the heck? Like she can move so fast and she's so unassuming because she's not like the biggest person. But don't let her stature fool you. She is wick. 56 point in the open 400. Obviously, that's no joke. I believe the state record is like 54, 53 maybe. She, I think, certainly will challenge that. Maybe not this year, but over the next couple of years, you could certainly see her challenging that open 400 record. Let's move down south. Marietta meet. We got to see Amira Woods of Durant, 57, 8, and 24, 7. That's, I mean, I was scrolling through the Marietta meet, not thinking anything like, maybe there'll be a good race result. I almost didn't even click on the results for the meet, thinking, there's probably not anything good there. I was proven wrong. Amira Woods, 57, 8 in the 400, 24.7 in the 200. Both very solid performances for Durant. Again, another meet that I almost skipped over, Maysville. Caden Knighton of Wynnewood, 10:52. Was this a meet that wind at the back, get a little bit of an advantage there to do it? Maybe. But he still covered 100 meters in 10:52, wind or no wind. That's something you can't, deny. 10:52 wind aided. I mean, I don't know how much it was wind aided, but even if you drop it back to like a 10:70, that's 0.2 of a second. 10:80, that's still very competitive. And from a small school, Wynnewood, that's a state champ in the making right there. But I believe he was only like third in the 200 meters. So who knows? Maybe he just had the performance of his life. I'd like to see him run couple more times well under 11 before I really just say like, oh, he's a top sprinter in the state. But 10:52, not a bad place to start for Caden Knighton of Wynnewood. At Velma Alma, another kind of Southern Oklahoma meet, Marlowe's Jonathan Bright runs 10:58. Again, was it wind aided? I don't know. But Marlowe secretly has a deep team, and I will talk more about them in the field events. Speaking of field events, May Pashner, Shattuck jumped higher than the boys at the Bethany Twilight meet. Not something you see every day. But pole vault, it's a kind of a crazy event, especially in the state where, I mean, not even every track has the ability to do pole vault. Like they don't even have the runway set up for it. They may not even have the mats out. Pole vault, also one, you need a coach who really knows what they're talking about. Like I can believe that I can coach, distance runners, sprinters, and for the most part I can, but some event that's so technical like pole vault, you need someone who that's their life. When I was at Washburn, we had a guy named Rick Addig. Rick Addig, great pole vault coach. He hosts pole vault camps. If anybody out there listening is interested in getting better at pole vault, highly recommend his pole vault university camp. Go up there, go learn. That guy has seen it all. He's coached Olympians, national champions in Division I, national scorers in Division II. I mean, high schoolers. He's coached everything. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to pole vault. Go up there. But Shattuck, whatever they're doing recently, they have a coach for pole vault. Trying to think of his name. I shouldn't. Laverty. I know them because I know their family because I'm from not very far from Shattuck. So I've known the Lavertys for more of my life than I've known running. And I believe Papa Laverty, again, I don't know his name. I don't know his first name. I can't off the top of my head. I really should. I believe it's Shannon. But anyway, Shannon Laverty was a good pole vaulter in his own right. But with his kids, and well, one of his kids, his son, Caden Laverty, he's really taken to pole vault. He was a top pole vaulter in the entire state the past couple of years. He's now at the Air Force Academy. I don't believe still pole vaulting. I don't think he pole vaults for the Air Force Academy, but he was a great pole vaulter. May Pashner, a little bit younger, still competing at Shattuck. She's jumping 11 something every week. And unfortunately for the guys at Bethany, she jumped higher than them. And I remember many track practices when our coach, Kendra Hoover, would challenge the guys occasionally, especially when a guy that would kind of be slacking off at practice. She would challenge for their man card. She would say like, okay, if you get beat by the girls on this 200-meter rep, you lose your man card. And sometimes it would go either way because sometimes the girls, they'd win. They would just be like, all right, I'm taking it. And sometimes the guys would go, all right, I should actually try. And they would. And then they'd get in a better workout. But Mae Pashner, I'd like to think, took those guys' man cards because she jumped well higher than them, a couple inches even. Like, it was great performance out of Mae Pashner. Also at Bethany, Kat Meacham. Kat Meacham tends to get into every recap somehow because every week she throws something out of this world. 167.03. Oklahoma, number 3, I believe, all time. So I think she'll have the state record by the end of the season before she heads to KU. Rock chalk Jayhawk, if you will. Also a W in the shot put, 40 feet, 7 inches. Her teammate, Montiel Crane of Clinton, in the disc, 176.06. Very solid performance. I believe a state lead as of now. And he is one of the top returning discus throwers. I'm not too shocked by this to see him throw 176.06 in, I believe, his first performance of the outdoor season. Zane Zemansky of Southwest Covenant, 54 feet in the shot at the Mike Tyson invite over in Thomas. Love to see some small school action, sneaking into our recap. I know we have a tendency to cover the 6As because the 6A, you have a big talent pool. You get big performances every week. You don't always get those out of the small schools. So I love it when a guy like Zane Zemansky goes 54 feet to be one of the top throwers, obviously in the small schools, but also in the entire state. 54 feet is no joke at any level of this state. At the Moore meet, we got the long jump showdown we've been waiting for. Carvale Jones versus Atticus Thompson. Last week, if you remember, Atticus Thompson went to Nike Nationals, won the Emerging Elite, jumped 23 feet, 6.5 inches. We were like, this is crazy. This guy's last year was a 22 feet flat long jumper as a freshman, sophomore year, jumping a 1.5 feet over his PB, like in a year. Like, that's crazy. We want to see him outdoors. We want to see what he can do. Well, we did get to see that. Carvale Jones also did not want to relinquish the fact that he is the top outdoor long jumper so far this year because he takes down Atticus Thompson, jumping 22 feet, 2 inches to Atticus Thompson's 21 feet, 8.5 inches. I know they're not in the same classification, so we won't get to see the showdown at state, but hopefully throughout the regular season and a meet like Meet of Champions postseason, we can maybe see them jump 23 feet in competition against each other. That'd be a battle I would love to see. Cassidy Watkins in the long jump out of Mustang. We forgot about her week 1 at PC. She jumped like the number 3 in the nation mark, jumped 20 feet 3. We forgot about it. We're dumb. But here she is jumping 18 feet 4. Big W, I believe, won by like over a foot. I think the next closest was like 17 feet flat. So big win out of Cassidy Watkins, who also ran and won the 400 meter at the meet. So lots of versatility out of Cassidy Watkins. Over to the high jump, Marlowe, pair of 6'8" marks. Zach Pettit, Canton Clark, both over 6'8", with third placer Chase Watterson of OCA, also a big 6'8". Watch out for Marlowe in 3A this year. In my storyline article, I had the team breakdown for 3A as Kingston versus Rejoice on the men's side. But Marlowe showed out at Marietta with a deep and versatile squad. They were scoring in everything. Now, just because you score across the board at a meet in 3A Marietta down south against like 5 different schools maybe was at that meet, not a ton. Just because you can score big there doesn't necessarily translate to the state meet. But I think this bodes well for Marlowe's chances to possibly upset a Kingston or Rejoice to become 3A champions. Maybe this is, the catalyst for a big season ahead for the Marlowe men. Moving to distance. This is what we've been waiting for. Texas Distance Festival every year is the place that Oklahomans, they go down there and they run fast. It's the one chance at least at this point in the season, that people have to go against really top level competition. Like really top level, you get great Texans. You obviously get the best of our state. You also get some other neighboring states like Louisiana coming over with some of their top runners. And, a lot of people converge down there. Occasionally, even people from farther out, like California. I believe it was my freshman year, Cooper Tier went down there and set the 5K record at the meet in like 14:10. You get just top level competition. We don't always get to see that in Oklahoma, like at our individual races up here. So we love to see it, and we'll get to them kind of at the end of the distance recap. But we'll start with Bishop McGuinness meet. Harry Ormison, 156, a 6-second W. So essentially, the dude ran solo to 156. 6A has, I swear, probably 10 guys right now that are right around that like 156 area. So 6A is wide open. Anybody can win that 800. I don't have a favorite there right now. We thought maybe a Colton Bennett or a Noah Thayer, who we will get to in a minute. But at this point, I don't know. Also, shout out to the dogs of Edmond Memorial running 803. I swear, again, they've been every single week since indoor season around 8 flat every week. They're going to go under soon. They're going to pick up steam. They're going to keep racking up the low 8s. Then they're going to get into meet against another team that can run an 8 flat, and they're going to run 755, 756. I know it's due for them. Mesbarth, Stillwater, 942, very solid mark. He's a guy I look to score at the state meet. In the 800, at the Moore meet, Joshua Ramage of Southmore. He showed up last week. He ran like a 157. We were like, this guy's kind of out of nowhere. We didn't even think of him as a contender before the season started. Well, he dropped 155.6, which I believe is the number one time in all of 6A right now. Granted, there's about 10 guys that are all around 156. So not the cushion you want to be the favorite, but right now he is leading the 6A race. Second place was Moore's Samuel Russell, 157. Again, another name added to the 800 meter. Like that 800 meter show is going to be crazy at state. I think it's going to be chaos. I think there's no way that someone doesn't hit the track getting tripped up because you have so many guys all around the same speed. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be carnage. There's going to be probably somebody. I like Daniel Davis of Union to take it out hard. He's like a 49 low 400 meter guy. I could see him maybe going, you know what? I'm going to just take off and I'm going to go for it. He takes it out hard. He starts to fade. Someone else comes up. It'll be utter chaos when we get around the state. So I'm looking forward to that. Ramage also doubled back with a big win over Carson Patton, running 4:26 in the mile. Morgan Kirkland got 2 W's, one in the 800 and 220, and then a 5:06 1600 meter, which betters her season's best. I believe she ran 5:10, 5:11 at Deer Creek, and then another roughly the same mark last week at her home meet, but good to see her getting up there. Again, we had Bella Nelson as the outright favorite, but the more that the other girls in the state keep running fast, the less I'm like, yeah, Bella Nelson's the favorite. I think now I'm like, she is, but there's also a host of girls not far off of her that could take her down and possibly upset her in one of the events. I think Bella Nelson could run 2-3 events and come in with the fastest time, but I'm not sure if she wins all of them. Moving on to the Union meet, Savannah Hull, big 800 meter. I was on the backstretch during this meet trying to get photos. Savannah Hull kind of came a little bit out of nowhere. Big late charge, passed up Kate Barber, passed up Natalie Dugan, who's in this race, passed up Rachel Cornell, wins 2:15.66, very solid time. Kate Barber, Rachel Cornell goes second and third with a pair of 2:16s and fading a little bit farther back, but still a very solid performance. because I mean she's a top 2-miler, not necessarily known for her 800-meter chops, was Natalie Dugan. So we like to see her moving a little bit down in distance, maybe working on a weakness of hers. Maybe she doesn't believe she's maybe the quickest, and she wants to work on it. And we love to see that. Fast forward to the mile, maybe one of the most electric races I have got to see this season. The atmosphere, the last 100 meters when everybody knew it was possible. The stadium kind of started to erupt. For Gentry Turner, 4:59 in the 1600 meter, a sub 5, her first of her career. I was fortunate. I was standing around the start finish line to try and take as many pictures as I could. The lights were going down, sun was setting. So turned out some really good photos, but also standing just behind me was the Bartlesville coaching staff. And those guys were losing their minds. She came through pretty even. And over that last lap, like, she's going to do it. She's going to do it. And over the last probably 10 seconds, they're just counting down. They're like, 450, 451, 452. And then when they saw her cross the line at 459, they went nuts, lost their mind. She came over, gave them a hug, gave her teammates hugs. It was crazy. It was a great time, electric atmosphere for that race. Daniel Davis, he won the 800 meter in 156. Second place behind him was Eli Hopkins, who did have a great day, winning the mile 4:28. Pretty dominant performance, broke away from the pack, I believe, roughly a half mile in, and just kind of soloed it the rest of the way out to run 4:28. He was 1:58 behind Daniel Davis to get second, and he led Broken Arrow men to 8:07 victory in that 4x800 meter. In the 3,200 meter, we had Maxton Barker of Santa Fe, big sit and kick victory, 9:54.89. Also, let's not forget Ava Cornelius of Union, 10:59, her first sub-11 performance of her career, adding to, at this point, a pretty long list of 6A girls that are all under 11 minutes right now, making that event a very interesting one to watch come state. Now, the big show, Texas Distance Festival. Let's start with the 800 meter. Trey Baker. We got to do an interview with him, so he gets to hold the OK Run Show record at 1:53.5. Granted, not up against much competition because he's the only interview we've got to do so far, but he can have the record at 1:53.5. Next behind him, 1:56.07 out of Colton Bennett. I believe he has a 1:53 PB, or maybe even 1:52 PB. 1:56.07. Not a bad position, but in 6A, there's so many guys at 1:56. It's going to be chaos. Dane Janowski, also 1:56. Just a little bit behind him, 1:56.35. Moving on to the 1600 meter. Your Gatorade Runner of the Year for cross country, Brody Woodcock, 4:11.23. Went out in 2:05. So pretty even splits, a slight positive split, but, within the margin of error. We like to see him run quick. I think, could he get the state record? Yes. Will he get it during the regular OK season? I don't think so. A lot of meets at this time of year in Oklahoma, they're super windy. You may not get the competition. You're probably certainly not going to have the competition you had at Texas Distance Festival. I think his next chance to break it would be at the state meet. If maybe like a Zach Rutherford, a Noah Thayer is there, they try to push the pace early. I think maybe a 4:08 could happen, but seeing positive split off of 2:05, I don't really think he'll go under 2:08. Keegan Thomas, his record, I think will stand at least till afterwards. But if Brody Woodcock decides to go to like a running lane and he gets in another highly competitive field similar to the one at TDF, I wouldn't be too shocked if he sneaks under what Keegan ran last year. Speaking of Noah Thayer, 4:13.79. Number 2 time in the state right now. I don't know what his PR was going into this. I think he was a 4:20 something guy. So big PB out of Noah Thayer, 4:13.79. I would have liked to see Zach Rutherford go down to TDF, but I also kind of like the fact that he didn't, because there leaves some unknown and some speculations that you could make about, oh, well, what could happen come state? If we had him down here and we have them all three head to head, we go, okay, we kind of know what will happen come state. But we don't know because Zach Rutherford, he didn't go to TDF. He stayed home, you know, trained through this week. I don't believe he competed this week. He competed last week with 3 W's at his home meet. A lot still to be determined in that 6A boys. Who's going to be the top guy? Will a sub 9 happen? I don't know. But Birdie Woodcock 411 shows me that maybe a sub 9 or maybe state record in the mile could be possible if these 3 guys get in a race together and go, you know what? Let's go for it. And they push each other to it. Bella Nelson. She's your queen of the distance racing in Oklahoma. She's your state champion in cross country. She's the #1 returner in like every distance event. She almost got under 5 minutes during the indoor season, but this is her first outdoor race. She runs 4:57.88, which I believe is a slight PB. Maybe not, maybe just behind her PB. I don't recall off the top of my head. But we've been seeing, all the other girls head to heads, this girl wins this meet, this girl wins this meet, then the next week it flips. It's been chaotic, but I think she kind of, had to remind everybody, hey, I'm still here. Like we've seen, the rise of girls like Gentry Turner, Morgan Kirkland, Natalie Dugan. We're like, yeah, maybe one of them could knock her off. But then Bella Nelson goes, wait a minute, I'm still here. I can still run sub 5 in any meet you want me to. Goes through 800 and 225, so 450 pace. But kind of, positive splits, 457, still not a bad showing. She went for it, didn't quite come up at 450 like she may have wanted to, but she's still a junior. This time next year, a year stronger, a year older, a year wiser of a racer, could she break a state record in the mile? I don't think it's out of the question. Also, let's not forget big PB out of Kinley Kite 504. She was like a 515 girl going into this meet. She's always like kind of one of those girls that like, she's gonna make state. And I think she could probably be top 8. She's kind of always there, but she's not near the top. But a 504, puts her season's best ahead of girls like Natalie Dugan. That's big. 504, not to be underestimated. I think a 504 maybe gives her a little bit more confidence going into, the rest of the season where she can go, you know what? I have a faster PB than some of these girls that I've, been racing for the last few years and they can't always beat me, but maybe this is my turn. And so we like to see that little bit of a storyline there. Maybe the underdog comes state, but who knows? Maybe she sneaks up for like a top, like a high podium position, maybe top 4, top 3. 504. It's nothing to shake a stick at. Moving on to the 3,200 meter, Cam Langdon, 9:18.7. Big PB. Dade Humes breaks his own school record, 9:27.53. Again, let's make that, 3,200 meter race a little more interesting. I kind of thought going into the season, if Birdie Woodcock goes up and runs the 3,200 meter, he's probably the guy that can, touch Zach Rutherford, especially after Zach ran 8:36 indoors in the 3K. I'm like, well, maybe the only guy that could possibly get it done would be Birdie Woodcock, but we haven't seen Birdie Woodcock run, more than a mile yet. So we don't really know kind of where he's at fitness wise there. I mean, I imagine off of 411, he's able to run low 9s, 9:15 or better. He's run it in the past. He's run I believe like a 9:17 PB. So, not to say that Zach Rutherford is the outright favorite, but I think he is till further notice. But Cam Langdon running 9:18, which is quicker than Zach Rutherford has run outdoors this year, and Dade Humes running 9:27 makes that 3,200 meter battle just a little more interesting. And another event that I kind of want to keep my eye on because, yeah, Zach Rutherford is the favorite. But could a guy like Cam Langdon, kind of come a little bit out of nowhere and beat him? And Cam Langdon, all-stater in cross, he's good. But again, kind of similar to Kinley Kite, he's always there, but he's never really at the top of the mountain. Could this be his coming out party of hey, I'm going to the top of the mountain. I'll see you guys there. Maybe. Moving on, Natalie Dugan, 10:44.06. Big state lead. I believe the state lead before this was 10:52 by Gentry, yes, Gentry. In a race against Dugan and against Morgan Kirkland. But Natalie Dugan goes down there, 10:44, went through 1,600 meters in 5:11, which is roughly what she ran at that DC meet in the exciting battle against Kirkland. She runs 5:11 through 1,600 meters. She knows, you really want to be in 10:30 shape. And if she statement win 10:30, that would have been like, she's my favorite in the 3,200 meter over Bella Nelson, over Gentry. If she could have pulled off, what she went out on pace for 10:22. So let's say even if she blows up a little bit, she's 10:30, but she blew up to 10:44. Not bad. Also, not bad considering she ran 5:06 and 2:20 just the Thursday before running 10:44. So not a bad weekend overall for Natalie Dugan. Obviously, state leads nice, but a 5:06, 1,600 meter, and a little bit of 800 meter work to go along with it. It's a recipe for a pretty good weekend. A little bit of miscellaneous relay team stuff. Edmond Memorial women 9:34 beat Jinx by 5 seconds. That race was kind of fun to watch because the first leg, Kate Barber of Jinx put a big gap over the rest of the field. But then Edmond Memorial, their second leg, I believe was Savannah Hull. Might be wrong on that, but she took off and caught Jinx and gave Edmond Memorial a big lead. So it was just like kind of a little bit of a yo-yo there within the first two legs. And then Memorial just kind of keep pounding the pace, ends up running 9:34. We really haven't seen great 4x8s out of the women yet this year. So this was kind of the first time we're like, man, the women's 4x8 is, again, an interesting race. The men's 4x8, we've seen some like right around 8 flats. We haven't really seen one go under. The women, we were really seeing mostly like 10 flats, 950s, 940 highs. See a 930, we're like, okay, the women are back. They're moving. Edmond Santa Fe won the 4x1 in 47.99, I believe, near the state lead, maybe the state lead. They've been honestly doing really well on the sprint side. It seems like every meet, I'll be taking pictures when they're there, and somehow the 100, the 200, Santa Fe beats all the others. They're a team to watch out for, to probably be on the top of the podium in that 4x1 come the end of the season. Also, BA spoils the party for Union, win on the men's side. Edmond Memorial beats Union, beats Jinx, beats all the powers that be to take home the title at the Union meet. I believe that's all we have for this one. So fairly long for just being solo. With only one guy, I believe we're still like 20, 30 minutes of just me rambling. So I'll cut it here. It's been a good week. Looking forward to the rest of the season. This was, we kind of have had like, a couple meets each weekend. So it's been pretty easy to cover. And then this week we had like 10. So Sean and I were on the tools, really just looking around, looking every corner of the state to make sure we didn't miss anything. And I'm sure we still missed something. So apologies for that if we did, if we missed your performance. But feel free to send your hate mail, as always, to Sean or to myself. I don't care. I'll read it. I'll probably give you something funny back, But yeah, that's all. Thank you guys for listening to one guy ramble about Oklahoma running results, and we'll talk to you next time.